Welcome back, everybody. I'm Chuck Beaver, and this is The Writing Wasn't Very Good, my web series dedicated to helping you avoid the pitfalls of video game writing. The time has come for characters, who already have abilities, a weapon, a face, a costume, a gender, even a hairstyle. How to get a great character from there. Let's go. In novels, TV, and film, characters are where you start. You cook up an internal contradiction or a juicy conundrum, brainstorm infinite what-ifs, and only once the big identity pillars are in place, fears, flaws, wants and needs, history, do you whittle down to the smaller stuff, such as personality quirks, wardrobe, the junk on their nightstand. All of it ladders back up into one coherent human being. Not in games. In games, you're almost always handed the small stuff first. The job, the weapon, the outfit, the hairstyle. And you have to build backwards into the character's core. Why? Because the hero is welded to the mechanics. They exist first and foremost as the delivery system for combat, traversal, and spellcasting. Which means we share character authorship with game design. And above both of us hovers the real master, the business plan, the game genre, the target audiences, the promises that got this sucker greenlit in the first place. This is unlike any other medium on the planet. So, how do we make it work? As restrictive and awful as this situation sounds, there actually is a way forward. The trick is to go in reverse. Just like our world-building exercise, where we mapped out a single catalyst event into the several societies that it might create, we can do the same with characters. If we are handed low-level details first, weapon, outfit, ability, we simply walk these effects backwards into their causes. What kind of fears, flaws, and history would have led here? Which core identity pillars would explain these surface traits? Let's sketch those pillars quickly and then run an example. When we talk about characters in the broadest sense, novels, TV, film, theater, there are a handful of pillars that almost everyone agrees on. Think of them as the DNA strands that make a character feel whole. The want-need paradigm. This is the core engine behind every character. Want, the conscious dodge, the external thing that a character tells themselves will solve their problem. Win the crown, save the world, get the girl. Need, the unconscious truth, the deeper reality they must confront in order to really grow. Accept love, forgive themselves, let go of control. So facing the need is uncomfortable, often painful. That's why the character invents the want as a safer substitute. The drama comes from that collision, the dodge versus the truth. A quick example, let's do Joel from The Last of Us as seen through his want-need paradigm. Want, the dodge, to keep Ellie alive. She is the stand-in for his daughter and the shield against his grief. Need, the unconscious truth, to accept his daughter's death and grieve, and learn how to love without turning love into possession. When faced with sacrificing Ellie to save humanity, Joel can't let go. He clings to his want and fails his need. Flaws and fears. It's counterintuitive, but nobody actually likes a perfect hero. It turns out that flaws make them human and fears make them vulnerable. The keys to relatability. These are often what block the need from getting met. Pride, anger, fear of abandonment, fear of failure, history and context. Where did they come from? What experiences scarred them, shaped them, and gave them the skills that they use now? This doesn't have to be a 10-page backstory, but just enough to give weight to their choices. Contradictions. Great characters live at the intersection of opposites. The warrior who is secretly gentle. The cynic who desperately wants to believe. These tensions give them texture and the capacity for surprise during moments of choice. Voice and personality. Once the big stuff is set, we filter down into how they actually behave. Their tone, their quirks, their sense of humor, or their lack thereof. This is what makes them recognizable in a single line of dialogue. So these 5 pillars are the bedrock of traditional character creation. Normally, you'd start here and work down into low-level details like wardrobe, weapon, and hairstyles. But in games, we're often handed these first and have to work backwards. Reverse engineering. This is where the fun begins. Let's take what we usually get handed, mechanics spec, and a piece of concept art. We'll have an inherent magic user, a sorcerer, for nerds, orbs of energy, a constant presence, delivers defensive and offensive powers. He's got his staff, an upgradable, focus, and amplification talisman. He's shirtless, scarred, muscular, and aspirationally handsome. He's got a hip-slung bandolier filled with magical alchemical vials. And he wears patchwork survivor gear, scavenged, weathered layers, worn for utility. Now, we work backwards. What is our first writing backwards step? Same trick as world building. Map the reactions. Let's start with the inherent magic user trait. What is his reaction to being born with magic powers? The simplest split is the first polar binary. He loved it, or he hated it. And then there's a natural third pole in the middle, neutrality. But instead of just bland indifference, we can really frame it as utilitarian. It's useful to him, but there's just no emotional allegiance either way. But I bet there's even more fun to be had if we split these down further, based on attitude. Okay, on the positive and embracing side of things, let's say one attitude he's got is to revel. He revels in his powers. Wildly enthusiastic, flaunting, celebratory, showing off, flamboyant. We've got reveres, where he reveres his power. He's very solemn with it. It's very private and sacred. Maybe it's almost religious to him. He could romanticize his powers. He could imagine them as destiny or larger than life providence, an ordained purpose. And megalomania might be a very extreme version of this. He could have altruism, where he sees it as channeling these powers only for the good of others. Very community-minded and very benevolent. Okay, let's go to the other pole and do negative or rejecting. His attitude could be resent. He resents his powers. He feels burdened by the responsibility and feels oppressed by its demands. Fear. He fears his powers. He dreads the danger inherent in them and is afraid for himself and his friends. Loathing. He's disgusted by the powers. He sees them as an abomination or corruption. Rejection. He just rejects his powers outright, refuses to engage them, and wants nothing to do with them. Okay, how about the neutral or utilitarian middle pole? Unseriousness. He could just be unserious about it all, very flippant, very ironic, just very disengaged, doesn't care. He could be resigned, just sort of weary about it all. It is what it is. Exploitation. He could be a mercenary. He commodifies it without reverence. Might even be psychopathic. Okay, where does that exercise leave us? The breakdown is science. The choice is art. This is where your muse steps in. Once you've picked a reaction, the next step is why. What kind of history or event or personality twist would create this reaction? So first, let's pick a reaction from our list. I say reveler. Flamboyant, show off, life of the party. That sounds like fun. Now, why on earth would someone be this way? Well, maybe he's masking something. Let's say he's chasing external validation as a way to fill an unfillable hole in his soul. So where did this hole come from? Let's say he grew up in a deeply emotionally abusive family, a narcissistic father with a very withdrawn mother. Nothing he ever did could earn genuine love. The result? Catastrophic self-worth and a very hollow core. Then, in adolescence, he finally found the one thing that could finally get a positive reaction: his magic. He mastered it, performed it, and the applause came. And so he's been chasing that applause ever since. Desperate, endless, and never enough. Motivation, check. History, check. That is already a huge swath of the character nailed down. Contradictions. Contradictions make characters dimensional, which is a good thing. We want a tension between surface and core, two traits that should not coexist, but do. For instance, he's the loudest man in the room, but the minute the noise stops, he collapses emotionally. He's the life of the party that cries himself to sleep every night. Wants, needs, fears, and flaws. At this point, it's practically cheating. We've already built a great scaffolding. Now it's just a matter of picking the fruit from the tree. What is his want? What is the dodge of the truth? To be admired and applauded for his magical prowess. He believes performance equals love. What is his need? The unconscious inner truth. To accept that no amount of performance will heal his wound. He must grieve the absence of love and learn to value himself without external approval. What's his fear? That if the applause stops, he'll be revealed as worthless. Silence terrifies him. And what's his flaw? Vanity and desperation. He pushes ever harder for admiration, even when it alienates and even endangers others. Now fill in history and motivation for the rest of his details. What's that staff all about? Was it a gift from his grandfather? Maybe the only kind person in his family? Why the shabby chic patchwork of clothes? Conformity or rebellion? Why is he shirtless? Does magic make him run hot? Or is he just peacocking? And ta-da! We have the minimum skeleton of a character design. Just rinse and repeat and you're set to write backwards into any character. Bring on the low-level detail and concept art. Cast math. Note that so far we have just focused on a single character. But characters don't live in isolation. They exist in ensembles. As with all design, once you start making choices, they all have to earn the right to sit together, according to whatever compatibility theory you are running. Think of it like color theory. Complementary, split complementary, analogous, triadic, square, monochromatic. For narrative cast designs, or cast math, here is the admittedly tortured analogy. Complementary pair, hero versus shadow. Perfect opposition. Triad, hero, mentor, and trickster. Push-pull of guidance, chaos, and growth. Tetrad, leader, challenger, peacemaker, and comic relief. Or something like the squad dynamics in Aliens. You have a competent leader, an inept authority, a panicky newbie, a seasoned veteran, an outsider specialist, and a corporate villain. Each is positioned as a balance of competencies versus incompetencies. So as you can see, our earlier reactions exercise doesn't just define a single character, it hints at how they'll slot into the cast as archetypes. So keep your headlights on high beam and manage these arrangements early so you don't wander into random cool idea chaos later. So characters are the lens through which the story is projected. So how do we bridge from these character sketches into the bigger main story? Well, the main story's job is simple. Throw circumstances at your character that directly pressure their want-need paradigm, their dodge versus the truth. The point is to make the dodge no longer livable. This is the why now. And that's what story really is. Life refusing to let the dodge hold. So main story and character arcs aren't separate tracks, they socket together. The main plot is just the external stage, built to stress test your character's internal contradictions. Okay, that's the trick of writing characters in reverse. Start with the costume, the weapon, the ability, the concept art, then work backwards into reactions, motivations, contradictions, and finally the want-need paradigm itself, and the fears and flaws that help drive it all. Do that, and your characters will go from hollow to human. You made it! That's all for this episode. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the content I'm making here, and we'll see you next time.